Hi, I'm Kendra Rocho. Welcome to my YouTube channel, Inspired by His Grace. Imagine a woman so essential to her community that when she died, God Himself intervened and brought her back to life. A woman whose simple needle and thread became weapons of warfare against poverty and suffering. A woman who, in a time when following Jesus could cost you everything, chose to risk it all anyways. This is the story of Dorcas, a woman who never commanded armies or ruled kingdoms, but whose impact was so profound that her death shook an entire city. Acts 9, verse 36, introduces her to us with these words. At Joppa, there was a certain disciple named Tabitha, which is translated Dorcas. This woman was full of good works and charitable deeds, which she did. Dorcas lived in Joppa, which is a Mediterranean seaport city, during the dangerous early days of Christianity. The Roman Empire was determined to eliminate anyone who refused to bow to Caesar. New believers were being scattered by persecution, some even killed for their faith. Yet in this climate of fear, Dorcas boldly demonstrated what it meant to follow Jesus, not through preaching, but through the quiet revolution of radical generosity. Today, we'll explore 3 powerful lessons from this warrior woman's life. First, using your God-given talents to serve others. Secondly, living with quiet, humble generosity. And lastly, creating a legacy that transcends death. Let's discover how this remarkable woman's story can transform our understanding of what it means to be a true warrior for God's kingdom. Let's reflect. In Acts 9:39, we read, "And all the widows stood by him," meaning Peter, weeping, showing him tunics and garments which Dorcas had made while she was with them. Dorcas was a talented seamstress and trade master. She could have easily used these skills to build wealth for herself. Joppa was a thriving seaport, and she could have sold her fine garments to merchants and lived very comfortably. Instead, Dorcas recognized her talent as a gift from God meant to serve others. She deliberately used her needle and thread to create clothing for those who couldn't afford it. Her hands were instruments of God's provision. Imagine Dorcas listening to the words of Jesus from the Sermon on the Mount, as he said, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God." These teachings penetrated her soul and inspired her to action. She understood that her skills weren't just for her benefit, but were the divine gifts meant to bless others. What talent has God given you? Perhaps you're skilled with technology, cooking, teaching, encouragement, organization, or leadership. Like Dorcas, your skills are meant to serve. God has uniquely positioned you with abilities that can meet specific needs in your community. 1 Peter 4:10 reminds us, just as each one of you has received a special gift, employ it in serving one another as good stewards of God's multifaceted grace. Let's look at the second point that Dorcas's life teaches us, living with quiet, humble generosity. Jesus taught in Matthew 6, verses 2 through 4, "When you give to the needy, do not announce it with trumpets, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues or on the streets to be honored by others. But when you give to the needy, don't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your giving may be done in secret." Dorcas embodied this teaching. She didn't seek recognition or praise. There were no social media posts documenting her every move about her charity. She simply saw the needs and met them without fanfare or expectation of anything in return. Let's picture Dorcas spotting a mother and a child in threadbare clothes on a very cold day. Without hesitation, she grabs one of the little jackets she's made and she hurries to them, perhaps a little bread tucked in the pocket. No camera, no witnesses, just pure compassion in action. In our world of visible philanthropy and public recognition, Dorcas challenges us. Her giving wasn't strategic for tax benefits or reputation building. It flowed naturally from her heart that was transformed by Christ's love. The secret to Dorcas's humble generosity was her understanding of Galatians 6:9, which says, "Let us not grow weary of doing good, for in due season we will reap a harvest if we do not give up." She knew God would be her ultimate reward. How might your giving change if no one ever knew about it but God? True generosity isn't measured by visibility, but by the sacrifice and the love behind it. And the third thing that Dorcas teaches us is to create a legacy that transcends death. When Dorcas died, her community was devastated. The widows wept, showing Peter the garments that she had made. Their grief reveals something profound. Dorcas just wasn't a nice woman. She was irreplaceable. Her absence created a void that impacted her entire community. Acts 9, verses 40 through 42, let's read that, tells us he knelt and prayed, meeting Peter. Then he spoke directly to her. "Tabitha, get up!" She opened her eyes. When she saw Peter, she sat up. He took her by the hand and helped her up. And then he called in the believers and the widows and presented her alive to them. When this became known all over Joppa, many put their trust in the Master. Why do you think God restored Dorcas to life? While we can't know God's full purpose, it's clear that her ministry was so vital that God chose to extend it. Her revival back to life became a powerful testimony that led so many to faith. Dorcas's legacy extends beyond her lifetime. The Dorcas Society, named after her, peaked in the 1800s, which provided clothing to the poor. Today's organizations like Dress a Girl Around the World and Dress for Success continue that exact type of work. It echoes Dorcas's mission, providing dignity through clothing. What legacy are you building? Dorcas teaches us that a life of faithful service can create ripples far beyond our years on earth. As C.S. Lewis noted, our giving to those in need reveals the presence of true faith. And Proverbs 19:17 promises, "Whoever is kind to the poor lends to the Lord, and he will reward them for what they have done." Dorcas challenges us to use our God-given talents to serve others, give with quiet humility, not seeking recognition, and build a legacy that impacts future generations. This week, I invite you to become a giving warrior like Dorcas. Identify one talent or skill God has given you and find a specific way to use that talent to serve someone in need. And do it without telling anyone except God. As I often like to do, let's close with prayer. Jesus, we come before you with open hands and open hearts, ready to serve you with the gifts you have graciously given to us. Make us warriors of giving, willing to take brave risks for your kingdom. Help us to give sacrificially, especially to those in need, knowing that it is you who care for us abundantly. God bless you. Thank you for joining me today. If this message touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel and share it with someone else who might be needing some encouragement today. Until next time, remember, True warriors don't just fight battles, they build communities through love.